freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode number 499 of Gun Freedom Radio, where we engage, we educate, and we inform. We are brought to you by PogAuctions.com, Pot of Gold Estate Auctions, where you set the price on guns, coins, accessories, jewelry, ammo, antiques, collectibles, you name it. I am one of your hosts, Cheryl Todd.
And I'm the other guy, Dan Todd.
Our theme today is New England Firearms Advocacy Conference.
And our guest is Holly Sullivan. Holly is the president of the Connecticut Citizens Defense League and on the board of the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms.
Welcome back to the show, Miss Holly.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
I'm so excited about talking with you anytime, but also I'm excited about this new event, which I've titled the show after. Tell us all about the inaugural coming of the New England Firearms Advocacy Conference.
Yeah, absolutely. We're super excited about this. So this is an initiative by the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. As you said, it's CCRKBA, as the cool kids like to say. So CCRKBA is putting on this event. And what's really unique about it is this is something that really hasn't been done before. So this is a regional gathering of the 6 New England states. So we've got the Connecticut Citizens Defense League. We have Gun Owners of Maine. We have GOAL, which is Gun Owners Advocacy League out of Massachusetts. We have the New Hampshire Firearms Coalition, the Rhode Island Second Amendment Coalition, and Vermont Federation of Sportsmen, all working together. And this is what's really unique. The other side does a really good job of falling in line with one another, and we don't want to fall in line with one another. That is not what constitutionalists are about, right? That's kind of, we tend to be pretty determined in our positions and do our own thing. And what's really cool about this is an opportunity for us to really talk to each other and build bridges without any expectation of falling in line with one another. What's also really great is that we are doing this in Massachusetts at the 250th anniversary of our country. And what is more timely and appropriate for our fight than to bring it back to where it all started? So very excited, although nobody really wants to go to Massachusetts. I understand that.
Holly, what's the deal? I mean, Massachusetts is one of the founding states, and
Yeah.
Connecticut is too. Why are we having battles? Can't they remember what this is all about?
Well, their goals are not aligned with the founders' goals. And I think we need to keep that in mind. The legislators that sit in office in our capitals up here in New England do not have the spirit of America. They don't know what it is. They're driven by big government, leaning in a very different direction, and they do not have the same principles that we live by. And that's just an indisputable fact. And it's something that we live with here all the time. The things that come out of their mouths are unbelievable. So it's just really understanding that we are not all cut from the same cloth as far as like what drives us. And that's just the reality in deep blue areas.
It's sad.
It is sad. And just that phrase that you use, they do not have the spirit of America, but that's where that spirit was first, so visibly enacted against a big government. What do you think has happened? And I think it has been a slow erosion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of death by 1,000 cuts. But what do you think has happened that the voters, that they've completely forgotten what's in the rearview mirror, and they've recreated the very thing that their forefathers pushed against?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, this more progressive ideology is like cancer, right? We've been here longer, so it started here. We it's coming everywhere, and it's always interesting to me. I've had a couple conversations. I've been doing this advocacy stuff in the 2A space for 10 years. I've talked to a lot of people around the country, and I think one of the most shocking things to me is when you meet somebody from a very deeply red area where their legislators are very reliable. They say, oh, so glad I don't live there. I don't have to worry about it. And the reality is you do have to worry about it. It may not be in your generation, but it will likely be in your children's generation. The Connecticut that I live in now is not even the Connecticut that it was 15 years ago. It is that fast. And that's the harsh reality is, it's just in a matter of time. It's just a matter of time until this comes everywhere. So one of the great things about what Citizens Committee is doing is bringing groups together to be having these hard conversations. It's very easy to close your eyes to it and say, like, not in my backyard, but it is coming. And if you look at these states that have had the large populations or some of the founding states, or look at the big city, Illinois, right? So look at where these pockets were, where the Industrial Revolution was here in New England and out in Chicago. They're just older, right? And so that progressive ideology has had more time to take hold, but it is a matter of time until it is everywhere, because people from states like mine look at states like yours and say they've got a better quality of life. Their taxes are low. Their weather is beautiful. I'm going to move there. Well, what happens when they move there and now they've been voting there for 5, 6, 10 years? It starts to take away from what you've become accustomed to. So there is no getting away from it. This is a cancer.
I feel like it is born of ease, right? Because we feel like, we're not under some threat, and yet it's always there under the surface. It's always brewing. It's always coming. Every new election, somebody that has a mindset completely opposite of what you and I might agree with, they come in to maybe a school board election, or maybe a city council election, where they don't have to declare what party they lean towards, what their ideology is on things like, your freedom to keep and bear arms, and they get a toehold. And then, the rest of us are just like, oh, isn't that a nice person? And we have no reason to be, fearful that they're going to end up one day being our governor, right?
Right.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, you and I both have such a love of history. Do you feel like there's something there about we're just kind of lulled into this idea of there's no threat, or lulled into a sleepiness and laziness?
Well, not here in Connecticut, unfortunately, because we are the minority. Unlike Arizona, where I feel like a lot of your folks, although you've been having more and more and more progressive with each election cycle, here we're in such hostile territory all the time that, like, we're kind of living under the opposite. Like, I'll tell you, the average gun owner here can pretty much assume that everyone's against us until proven opposite, right? So we walk around quiet and, you know what I mean? Kind of like, these are not my people. Like, most of it, at least for me, and I can guarantee you a lot of my membership feels the same way, is that the assumption is that we are not in pro-2A friendly company unless proven otherwise. And that's a shame, because it's a constitutionally protected right. It's codified for us. So we kind of live in a very different reality here, where everybody is kind of, we assume the opposite, as opposed to assuming that they're not a threat. We, in fact, have to kind of assume that everybody is against us.
The United States is weak. We are a weak people. We're not voting. We're not getting up. We're not doing anything. And if you look at Arizona has lost so many of our rights already. And we have some good politicians in there that are blocking these bad bills. But we're not doing anything, Holly.
It's a razor
And you look at Virginia now. Virginia's just lost it. They lost it. And why did they lose it? They have enough gun owners in Virginia to have stopped her from being elected. They
Yeah,
just
no,
didn't
that's
wake up.
100%. Yeah, that's 100% true. And it's very hard to watch because Virginia is, I think a lot of us, at least on the East Coast, have looked at Virginia as like, maybe I'll retire there someday, maybe, and then you go, wow, it's not possible. It does change. Everything can change in a day.
Right.
For us in Connecticut, it all changed with Sandy Hook. We were a pretty free state when it came to our Second Amendment rights up until that one December day. Everything changed overnight. Our legislators were terrified. Everyone was afraid. How could this happen? These were our children, our babies. And that's all true. But the response to it was an ineffective action because shootings still happen here in Connecticut, right? There's still violence in Connecticut. In fact, there's more urban violence now than there was before. For us, we lost it in a day. And in Virginia, lost it with one election. This is how it goes. And for everybody who sits at home and says, I don't have to worry, it's not going to happen to me here, it takes one election that will shock you. And I think a lot of our state and municipal elections went the way that they did because of frustration in DC that people didn't necessarily understand. So it might not even be a result of your local government doing anything. It is like, that is how irrational and uneducated a lot of our voters are.
Speaking of uneducated, I mean, Sandy Hook was a very terrible thing. I don't wish it on anyone, but there isn't a law out there that would have prevented that.
Absolutely not.
So what are we doing? What are we thinking that if we take this away, that it's going to solve the problem? It's not going to solve the problem.
No, he murdered his mother to get the firearm. We don't have that conversation enough. He committed murder to gain access to a firearm that he had no business having access to. He was in illegal possession of that firearm. How is putting more laws on permitted law-abiding Americans the solution to that when murder that does not solve this problem? Could it happen again here in Connecticut? Absolutely.
It happen
we hope it
anywhere.
Look at Chicago. Chicago is probably one of the strictest gun regulations there is. And they have more crime. And what do? They say they blame it on the connecting states.
Yes. Yeah, they do.
It has nothing to do with the connecting states. So that's not the solution. Tougher laws are not the solution. The solution is tougher on the criminals. We've got to get them at the start. These criminals that are career criminals, stop them at the start. That's
and I think you hear a lot of that. Like, there's a lot of international dialogue right now, especially with what's going on in Iran. And you look at countries like Dubai and Japan and Singapore, and people are saying like, well, why is it such a lovely place to live? And why is it that you can, put your cell phone down and walk away and leave it to charge and come back in an hour? Because they are extremely tough. And that there's a conversation to be had here where what is happening in the United States if somebody gets arrested and they have multiple charges, and the one that usually gets dismissed is going to be that gun charge, so that they can get a conviction on the violent offense.
Right.
And isn't that wild that if, the way that the other side speaks versus how they behave, right? So you would think that they would be so tough on gun crimes. And yet that's the first thing that they kind of wave away and send the person back out to commit another crime, and that person finds another gun, and then it just kind of pads up the stats to say that, it's just rampant that people are misusing firearms, when really it's like a smallish number of people who are victimizing society, because we're not tough on crime. We're easy on crime, but we talk like we are,
It's interesting. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
So we have a group here in Connecticut called Connecticut Against Gun Violence, and they are, kind of the opposite of us at CCDL, right? And they argue for more legislation every session. And I was shocked to see that they actually testified this session looking to reduce the penalty to juvenile offenders with a firearm. How are you against gun violence when you are advocating to reduce the penalty?
Yes.
How is that? Like, that is not the mission of your
Right.
organization per
No,
your claim.
you got to look at their side. Their side
Make
is
it make sense.
the more gun crime we have, the more we can stand on fighting for more gun laws, right?
Mhm.
The
So,
more-
we can just say, oh, we're rampant with gun problems. Well, sure we are, because we're not doing anything about it. The other thing I just want to say, we are voting people that don't believe in the Constitution.
Yeah.
They're swearing to the Constitution, but they're blatantly abusing that. How many laws are on the books right now that are not true? They shouldn't be there, because the Constitution protects us from those laws. So we're doing it, and we're letting it happen. And you look at that governor that I always give trouble for, that says, I don't the
It's above his-
the Constitution is above my pay grade.
Yeah.
The governor says that. Then you say, okay, you need to walk out that door and never come back, because if you don't follow the Constitution, you can't be our governor. But yet we reelect him.
It's amazing. That's really sad. No, and I think you're entirely right. We've somehow lost, and maybe it's in the public school system. I don't know what it is, but that thing that we used to have, that fire that used to burn of like being an American, you only learn that at home now. And if you're not getting it in your household, you're not getting it.
Right.
So, you have amazing granddaughters. You've instilled that in them. Like I've instilled that in my daughters, that love of country. And if you're not getting that at home, they're certainly not getting it at school. And I'm not, there's a lot of, when we talk about the founding of our nation, what is more important to teach our children than why they should defend our country? There's nothing more important than that.
We
Absolutely.
took both of our grandkids to the Capitol last Thursday, and we took them out of school for that.
Yep.
And I guarantee you, they learned more that day than they would learn the entire year at school.
About
Absolutely.
how government works, right? And interacting with legislators.
They actually interacted with politicians. They talked to them.
Yes.
So,
It was very powerful. And I encourage people to really take the time and do that. Visit your capital.
Yeah.
Holly, you, me, and Dan, we all know this, that it's important to know who your elected officials are, but
Yes.
it's at least as important, if not more important, that they know who you are.
Absolutely. Yep. They need to count on you too. It's got to be reciprocal. Like you can't just go to your legislator and say, "What have you done for me?" You need to also say, "Here's what I can do for you. I can door knock for you. I'm going to make phone calls for you." Like you have to be a team. If you want them to represent them, they don't know what your priorities are if you're a stranger to them.
all they hear is the people like Mom Demand Action that are blurting out all over the place. They hear that. Yep. We're assigning. Here's the thing here's what's saving us right now. Okay. Women. You guys are, you say what you want to say, and you organize. We're seeing a change. I know that, Connecticut and Virginia are having a hard time right now, but we are seeing a change. And I think it's when women started getting involved. They just know how to do that.
Well, we're social creatures, right? So it's even like going out to the range. If a dude goes out to the range, a dude goes out to the range. But if a lady goes out to the range, there's usually, 3 or 4 friends along for the event.
So it's kind of funny timing. My husband and I actually had this conversation at dinner the other night. We were talking about the suffragettes, and we recently saw the place-offs. And I am actually struggling here in Connecticut in that I actually feel like women are the most uninformed group of voters here. I think that they are the most uneducated, emotional, and irrational voters here. And I know I'll probably get a ton of slack for saying that. But when I stood at the polls all day on election day, and about 4:00 in the afternoon, I said, I think we're in trouble here. Like a traditionally Republican held district swung Democrat for the first time in a decade. And people were angry with our president. I don't think they really cared who was on the ballot. And I don't really think they knew the issues. They showed up to vote in an election angry with somebody that was not on the ballot. And it's taken me a couple months to sit with that and my frustration with my female colleagues that I think have done us a great disservice in flipping this past November's elections. And I think very upset women who didn't understand what the issues are on that ticket did a lot of damage.
No, I can understand that.
Now you
And it
got me
still
scared.
holds, I know it still holds true that we are social creatures. And so if we believe something, then that's the conversation we're going to have with our 3 or 4 lady friend group or whatever. And it's either going to create a division in our group or we're all going to end up doing that head bob. So, when you are the constitutionalist in your group, when you are the one that understands the issues of what is and is not on the ballot,
Yep.
right? You're not striking a blow in the heart of the dude sitting in the Oval Office
Right.
by, actually striking a blow in the heart of yourself and your own community. So
Yep.
you have to be that maverick. You have to be that one that risks speaking up and being unpopular, but still try to have open hands and draw people
Yes.
together and draw them into what you believe, why you believe it. And it's not easy, but
Well,
man,
can I?
I do hear you, and it seems like, just a second, hun, I'll get right back to you, but it does seem like the loudest voices that feel most empowered are the ones that know the least. I think
Yeah.
Ronald Reagan said something like that
Right. Right.
back in the day. I don't, I can't even try to quote him, but it's along those lines. And I'm sorry, Dan, go
No,
ahead.
I now I'm confused because I really thought that women were going to make the changes, but then now Holly, you brought to the point that there's two types of women, one Democrat and a Republican, or an educated and an uneducated. Not comparing the two, but anyway, I look at it this when I first got heavy in the industry back in the 70s, I had gun shops, and a woman never walked in a gun shop. If they
Right.
did, they walked in to pick up a gun for somebody, but they really weren't involved. Men were involved, and in 1970s is when we started losing our rights, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of rights. Saturday Night Special, all this other stuff. My dad fought hard for our rights. I know some other gentlemen that fought hard for our rights, but it wasn't enough. I see now in the 80s, not 90s, women getting involved, and they're more vocal, they are more organized, and they really speak out, and they get their families involved, all this stuff. But they never thought, well, we got moms that demand action.
They're
You
women.
know, but there's a difference because I see the educated woman and I see the mom that demand action don't have any sense to what's
Yeah.
going on. Like
Yeah.
making more laws is going to fix things.
And I think the more that you can draw women into groups like Women for Gun Rights and A Girl and a Gun that are doing amazing things, I think that is tremendously important. And I just want to make sure I'm clear. Like, I don't mean that like women aren't useful in this
No.
space. I think that
Right.
I think in the Second Amendment community, women have grown leaps and bounds from what like when I was growing up in the 80s, my dad would get angry, at our governor in 1990 who passed assault weapon ban back in, the 90s in New York. If I didn't see like my mom getting involved with the fight, my dad would go to a meeting, and my dad was an NRA member. My mom supported it, but she wasn't like dynamic in the process. And I think women in the second community now are more dynamic in the process than they were in generations past. And so I think you're very right on that, Danny. What I'm struggling here with in a very blue state, a deeply, deeply held blue state, and I want to like underscore how blue my region is. For all of New England, for 6 states, we have 0 House representatives in Washington, D.C. There is not a single House rep for 6 states for all of New England in Washington, and we have 1 senator.
Wow.
How is it possible that we are so underrepresented? And the problem, I think there's a couple problems. I think we have a problem with our ballot integrity, our voter integrity. We have an issue here in New England that in our cities that is a deep, deep problem. It is proven in Connecticut. There's been arrests made, but it's not being fixed. I think we have very emotional voters that don't understand the issues. And I think the media is feeding them incorrect issues and facts, and they don't know what they don't know. And I think we have some gerrymandering problems.
Yeah,
but
for sure. Well, that basically took me to the question that I had. kind of on the back end of it, but I was going to say, what is required for states that haven't yet been infected with the progressive cancer? Um, what is it going to take? And is this what you guys are going to be speaking about at your New England Firearms Advocacy Conference?
So here in New England, I think like our issues are, so the speakers that we're going to have in New England are going to be really focused on current New England issues. And really there's only one state, which is New Hampshire, that is kind of the outlier, is still a very free state. I think Maine is has historically been that way, but Maine is starting to struggle with their own issues with red flag laws and other new proposals that they never expected to see. I think New Hampshire is kind of the only like freedom holdout, but that is also temporary, right? Everything is temporary. It's a matter of, like you said, what can we do to kind of put these, what can we do now to stop it so that it doesn't come? And I think this is where you're going to see the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms really shine going forward. It's not just the conferences, it's also the relationships that are being formed out of these conversations. So New Hampshire can look to states around them and say, okay, what is happening there that I need to be prepared for? How do I prepare my legislators for what might be coming 5, 6, 8 years down the road? And even perfect example. So right now in Connecticut, we are literally, as we are recording this right now, our Judiciary Committee is in caucus right now, and they are debating a bill that is sponsored by the governor himself to ban Glocks. It is a ban on firearms with cruciform trigger. So Glock shadow system, this is literally being argued in caucus right now behind closed doors as we record this. And what was interesting is this language that came out in Connecticut a couple of weeks ago was calling the Glocks convertible pistols, which is like, what the hell? It's like the term ghost gun. Where did that come from? Now we have this new term called convertible pistols. And what was really interesting is through the years, we've become very close with our neighboring state 2A Oregon, Goal, and Massachusetts. Well, funny timing, I get a call from Goal last week and they say, we've noticed that our police departments are starting to call Glocks convertible pistols. So by our relationship, I think it's pretty fair to assume that Massachusetts will soon be seeing a similar type of legislation. So the more that we talk to one another, the more that we can prepare one another for what's happening. And this is one of the challenges that state 2A groups has, is we work so hard on our own state issues that it's hard to have bandwidth to really have meaningful relationships with other state 2A groups. It's you tend to fall in line with your friendships with like the national groups, but state to state, there is a void there. And you're going to find the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms is going to be filling that void. And I'm really excited to be a part of it because it is a sorely needed area. And I think CCRKBA has the right culture to do that.
Absolutely. And we need to start winding down. Unfortunately, the time goes so quickly. But tell folks how they can be involved and who should be involved in this conference, this inaugural conference. Is there an online opportunity? Do you have to be physically in the room? Just kind of lay it all out there for us.
Yeah. So this is an in-person only conference. So everybody will be in the room. This isn't going to be live streamed. And anybody that is in New England, if you're not even a gun owner, I don't care. If you just have an interest in this issue, please join us and attend. It is open to everybody. You don't need to be a member of the 6 organizations that are working together on this. By attending, you automatically become a 1-year member of the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. That is included with your ticket, which is only $25. So you get an entire day of learning. You get an entire day of networking. There's going to be vendors. Your food is included, and a 1-year membership to Citizens Committee. Even if you're in upstate New York, if you're drivable to Chicopee, Massachusetts, even if you're not drivable, we've got some folks getting on airplanes. So, come. Or if you live in a state and you think this is something that would be valuable in your region, please contact me because there's opportunities to work with the Citizens Committee in the future to bring something like this to your region as well. So please reach out to me. My email is holly@ccrkba.org.
That's amazing. And, I so want to be there, but the darn airlines
Yeah.
are getting in the way. They're so expensive. But again, having this conversation, I'm like, oh, maybe I need to go look at that budget again because it feels too important to miss things like,
Yeah.
where did this new language come up from, right? Convertible pistol, and it's already spreading into law enforcement. And they always start with the language because the language drives the culture, and then the
Yes.
culture drives legislation.
California is working on the same thing.
Yes, they have it.
And let me ask you this. I have a question. People that have converted these guns, there's a switch you can buy on the
Mhm.
internet that have converted them. How many of them prosecuted?
I
That's a
know
good
of none.
question.
I'll bet you there's none. They've
Yeah,
been arrested. Yeah.
I don't know of any here in Connecticut. We had that we had that question come up in testimony day in our capital, and I don't know that. I don't actually know that the proponents of this bill know that information.
Right. So so if none have been prosecuted, then why is it a problem? Why
It's
is
not.
it a problem? You know.
That's the hard reality, Dan. You're being too logical. It's not a problem, right? It's
Right.
not a problem. It's gun control. They can't
Mhm.
come out and say we just want to disarm the American people. They can't say
Mhm.
that. That would be culturally unpopular. So they have to find small things that they can do to, one, take away the guns that they think they can get away with, and then two, jam up the average gun owner so that your firearms do get taken away, and three, they want to impose laws that you cannot pass them on to your children.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, we do need to scoot on out of here. Um, I so appreciate your time. I'm so excited about the forethought. We've been reactionary for way too many generations in the firearms community and advocacy groups, and this feels very proactive, and I just really applaud it. Tell folks once again what it is, how they can find out more about it, how they can buy tickets, and how they can follow all the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Citizens Committee, their web address for the tickets is CCRKBA.org. I know it's a mouthful. And then /FAC for Firearms Advocacy Conference. So you're going to find the tickets there. And, get involved with the Citizens Committee. There's so much new life with a new board and doing great things. And I think it's really got a very unique culture that's very focused on exactly what you said, a proactive approach and bringing groups together.
Well, I love it. And just writing that down, FAC, you need to find a T and an S. Make it facts, right?
Yeah. So it stands
Tremendous summit.
it's CCRKBA.org and then /FAC for Firearms Advocacy Conference. So FAC.
Very good.
Holly, thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
And thank you
Very
for all that you do. Spreading the word is so important. So it's tremendously appreciated.
Absolutely. Well, I hope I get to see you soon. Maybe I'll surprise you at the FAC. So
You got to be looking at me to do that.
I know, seriously. Let's talk budget, babe. All right. Thank you so much, Miss Holly.
Thank
Holly
you.
Sullivan. Appreciate
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, it's spreading like wildfire, and we've got to do something about it. We've got to get off the couch. We've got to do things. Just go spend some time at the Capitol. Respectfully talk to your congressmen and your representatives, even if you don't like them. I had the pleasure of meeting one of our representatives or Congress, right? Uh, don't say the name.
There's
Anyway,
House and Senate.
okay.
House and Senate.
Anyway, I had the
Arizona
pleasure
State.
of meeting one at an event, not at the Capitol,
Mhm.
that is anti everything. And my tongue was bleeding by the time I got done because I was biting it. But I still showed semi respect,
Yes,
because there may be a time that we
absolutely.
clash. And, and every once in a while I'll slip something in on Facebook that I shouldn't do because there may be a time that they come to you to ask you a question about a law or, and I need to work on it even more, but we need to respect. I'm not going to say leaders, respect the people that were voted in. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, There you go with that.
When we're super highly frustrated with the way that they vote and the bills that they put forward. All right. Again, thank you so much to Holly Sullivan of CCRKBA and also the president of Connecticut Citizens Defense League. She is a busy, busy lady. Thank you to all of our amazing listeners. Wherever there is internet, we have people who are tuned in and really want to learn from the subject matter experts that we are so fortunate to bring to the show. I want to also thank and encourage you to get involved in a couple of the organizations that support the work that we do. First off, let's talk about Patriot Mobile. All right. We all walk around with these gadgets in our pockets, right? We text on them. We take selfies with them. We make phone calls on them. Our cell service has become more and more a part of our lives. And when we are giving money every single month to organizations that absolutely use that money to work against our values, why are we doing that? When we have a place, an organization like Patriot Mobile, they are the only Christian conservative wireless provider that shares your values. You keep your phone, you keep your number, and you keep your values. PatriotMobile.com/GFR will get you some cool free goodies. And it also helps support the work that we do, helps my budget, right? So that I can go to things like the New England conference, New England Firearms Advocacy Conference. Everything we do takes money. And when we have companies like this that help fuel, and then your participation is part of that process, really consider moving over to patriotmobile.com/GFR. And also, speaking of supporting American values and American-made products and American jobs on American soil, I want to invite you today to this private invitation-only shopping club. It is patriothousehold.com/GFR. So it is helping my family and millions of other people cut the cord on huge corporations that use our own money to diminish our freedom and individual liberties. From laundry soap to skin care to delicious snacks, you can shop online as you need items. Or what I do is I set my order, I walk away, I forget it, and everything shows up at my door fresh. And it's such good quality products. I would buy it even if they weren't helping support the work that we do. But patriothousehold.com/GFR. And finally, if you'll go to our main page, GunFreedomRadio.com, and scroll down, you'll see Attorneys on Retainer. Attorneys on Retainer is such an important part of your preparedness plan, because if you do have to defend yourself, you will need an attorney on retainer, and they also help fuel our work. We are super tight on time, so I'm going to speed through this. Thank you again to all of our listeners. If you want to listen to the audio version of this, go to our website, GunFreedomRadio.com, and
binge listen to your heart's content, darling.
And if you want to watch the video, you can find that on YouTube and Rumble and all those places. Please hit subscribe and notification. It lets those organizations know that you value this information. If you want to find the link to everything that we were talking about with Holly or any of our subject matter experts, go to the website, gunfreedomradio.com, click the guest tab, and you will find an ever-growing database of subject matter experts there.
And now it's time to pray for our nation.
Pray for our leaders, even the ones you don't like.
Okay.
Maybe especially the ones you don't like.
Okay.
Be good to each other. Have a great week, and God bless.
Bye-bye.